This castle was not built for beauty. It was built because a king feared rebellion after conquest.
Long before tourists crossed these gates, soldiers watched the Thames and waited for war to arrive.
Every wall promised safety. Every tower warned enemies that Norman rule had come to stay.
Windsor Castle began not as a palace, but as a weapon placed above the road to London.
In 1066, William took England, but victory did not mean peace, only new dangers to control. The land west of London mattered because roads, trade, and armies all crossed the Thames below.
From this high chalk ridge, a king could watch movement long before danger reached the capital.
That is why Windsor rose here, where stone would later replace fear carved first in timber. The first castle was rough wood, earth walls, and a raised mound built for defense, not comfort.
No stained glass, no royal portraits, only urgency, wooden palisades, and the logic of survival.
The moat stood high, the bailey spread below, and the message was simple: obey or be broken.
William did not build for beauty, he built for permanence, and permanence demanded visible power.
The fortress entered the landscape like a threat, and England learned to live beneath that shadow.
But timber does not outlive kingdoms, and kings who dream of dynasties build first in stone.
Henry II understood that royal power must look unshakable, not temporary, not vulnerable, not borrowed.
Under him, Windsor changed from wooden command post into a fortress fit for royal inheritance.
Stone walls replaced timber lines, and the castle began speaking a language stronger than armies.
Curtain walls rose thicker, gates became harder to break, and royal chambers moved inside defense.
Now Windsor was more than a fort. It was a residence where kings could rule from safety.
Power needed walls, but it also needed ceremony, and ceremony would change Windsor forever.
By the 14th century, Edward III looked at Windsor and saw not enough ambition in its stone. He had been born here, and he wanted the castle to reflect a monarchy larger than England. He did not merely repair Windsor. He reinvented it as a palace where kings could be remembered.
Grand halls stretched wider, chambers grew richer, and the fortress learned how to perform majesty.
The castle stopped being only a shield. It became a stage where royal authority could be seen.
At Windsor, power was no longer hidden behind walls. It was displayed inside them. Here, Edward founded the Order of the Garter, binding honor, loyalty, and dynasty to the castle. Stone became ceremony. Architecture became politics. Every corridor now carried the weight of inheritance. The round tower stood at the center, less as a watchpoint now, more as a royal statement. A castle survives by defense. A dynasty survives by memory. Windsor was learning to become both. Then came St. George's Chapel, where faith and monarchy would be tied beneath carved stone ceilings.
Edward IV began the Great Chapel, and later kings made it the Sacred Heart of Windsor.
This was no simple church. It was a royal stage for prayer, burial, and political permanence.
kings would kneel here, but they would also be remembered here long after their voices were gone.
Henry VIII rests here now, not in triumph, but in the silence that follows every crown.
Charles I too would come here, though not as a ruler, but as a prisoner waiting for history.
That is Windsor's truth. It celebrates kings, but it also survives them all without mercy.
No owner keeps a castle forever. Even kings only borrow stone from time.
In the Civil War, that lesson became brutal. The crown itself was no longer untouchable.
Parliament did not only fight the king, it fought the meaning of monarchy inside these walls.
Windsor was seized, and one of England's greatest royal symbols passed into enemy hands.
Its halls changed from royal residence to military headquarters, prison, and controlled silence.
Ceremonial rooms grew colder, guards replaced courtiers. Power now wore plain dark coats.
Charles I, once king, was held here before execution, beneath the same roofs built for royalty.
A castle made to protect monarchy now watched monarchy collapse from within its own walls.
With no battle scar marked that loss more deeply than the quiet of a captive king. After execution, Charles returned to St. George's Chapel, where Windsor kept even its fallen monarchs.
Stone remembers what politics tries to erase. Windsor became witness, not judge.
Then the monarchy returned, and with it came the question, could royal power look whole again?
Charles II reopened Windsor not as a prison of defeat, but as a palace of restoration.
Charles II brought back ceremony, rebuilding rooms where silence had served Parliament's victory after civil war.
The castle learned to shine again, but its stones still carried the memory of captivity, judgment, and civil war.
Restoration did not erase the past. It dressed the old fortress in courtly color and controlled royal display.
Windsor became proof that monarchy could fall, return, and make its wounded image appear ancient and eternal again.
Yet another transformation waited, not through war, but through taste, image, and royal imagination in stone form.
In the 19th century, George IV looked at Windsor and saw a castle that needed height, drama, and theater. He raised its silhouette, reshaped its interiors, and turned medieval memory into royal theater for a new age.
The Round Tower became taller in the public mind, a crown of stone above the Thames Valley and the town below.
Staterooms grew richer, corridors became grander, and Windsor looked older than its own careful reinvention plan.
This was architecture as persuasion, built to make monarchy feel ancient, stable, theatrical, and inevitable again.
By then, Windsor was no longer just a fortress. It was a national image carved into the skyline above England.
Queen Victoria made that image deeply personal, using Windsor as both royal home and solemn imperial stage of rule.
Behind the towers, monarchy became family, grief, duty, ceremony, and the daily weight of rule under history's eyes.
The castle watched morning dress cross its rooms, and empire passed through its gates in disciplined royal silence.
But every age asks the same question of Windsor. Can stone still hold power when politics keeps changing around it?
In the 20th century, Windsor remained a working royal home, while the world outside its walls transformed.
Cars replaced carriages, cameras replaced court painters, yet the castle kept its ancient posture of command intact.
Its walls no longer guarded against invading armies, but against forgetting what monarchy claimed to represent.
Then, in 1992, fire entered the castle like an enemy no army had sent, and no locked gate could ever stop in time.
Flames moved through historic rooms, devouring ceilings, timber, paintings, and centuries of royal texture at speed.
For a moment, Windsor seemed less like a monument and more like a living body suddenly wounded by flame and smoke.
Smoke poured from the state apartments, and Britain watched royal memory burn in real time on television screens.
The damage was severe, but the castle had survived conquest, civil war, changing crowns, and public doubt before.
Restoration began not only to repair rooms, but to decide what kind of national history should be saved from ash.
Craftsmen returned to wounded interiors, rebuilding fine detail where fire had turned splendor into ash and dust. Some spaces were restored faithfully, while others were carefully renewed for a modern royal age after the fire.
The fire became another scar. Not the end of Windsor, but the latest chapter in its long survival story of stone.
By 1997, the restored castle stood again, proving that even damage could become part of royal memory and renewal. Queen Elizabeth II made Windsor a central refuge, a place of duty, family, crisis, and royal continuity in stone.
In her reign, the castle felt less like a relic and more like a steady heartbeat of the crown itself in motion. She spent many private years here, and in the end, Windsor became part of her final chapter of duty and memory.
St. George's Chapel received her burial, binding modern monarchy to the same sacred stone as kings before her time.
Henry VIII, Charles I, and Elizabeth II now share one truth. Windsor outlasted every throne they once held in life.
Today, Windsor is not a ruin. It is a living machine of ceremony, memory, tourism, and royal power still moving.
Visitors see beauty, but beneath that beauty lies the old purpose: control, continuity, and survival through time.
The wards still organize royal life. The chapel holds dynastic memory, and the round tower still watches above.
Every period left a layer: Norman fear, Plantagenet stone, Gothic ambition, and Civil War silence in the walls.
Then came Restoration elegance, Georgian theater, Victorian duty, modern fire, and careful rebuilding of memory.
That is why Windsor cannot be understood as one castle. It is many castles occupying one body of ancient stone.
Its story is not a straight line, but a series of crowns rising and falling around the same old stone foundation.
The owners changed, dynasties changed, governments changed, yet Windsor remained where William first placed it.
It began as a warning above the Thames, but became something stranger: monarchy's long memory in living stone.
The castle did not survive because every ruler was strong. It survived because each one needed its shadow near.
Every king borrowed it, every queen marked it, every crisis tested it, and still Windsor stands today in stone.
In the end, Windsor belongs not to one monarch, but to the centuries that could never erase its shadow from stone.